Good day, beautiful people, and welcome back to Life Treasures and Golden Moments. This is Natalie Silva. Hey, I've been out of the studio for a few days, so I'm back in now, and I want to share some wonderful stories with you for the month of February. And I would like to share some stories on love, a story on renewal, and a story about angels. The first story I'd like to share with you today is about love. It's reaching out in love, and the title is Pride Goeth Before a Water Ticket. And the author is Elizabeth Shumadula. It's a story about a lady who has a negative experience, and it becomes a miracle, making a difference in a young girl's life. Just weeks before our summer vacation, our doorbell rang at 8:30 in the morning. Puzzled by who it could be visiting at such an early hour on the weekend, I peeked out to see a police officer standing on my porch. My heart sank as I thought of the possibility that one of my older sons had been in an accident, since both had already left for work that morning. I quickly opened the door, and much to my relief, rather than bad news, the officer proceeded to ask me if I knew that I had water running down the street. "We do," was my reply. I went on to politely explain to him that we have a sprinkler system that is precisely set so as to conserve water, not waste it, and I asked him if he was sure the water was coming from our lawn. He was not impressed with my fortitude. On the contrary, he asked me to show him some form of ID. I was shocked. There he was, standing in my own home and asking me for ID. This was just too much, not to mention that now he would see my weight on my driver's license, too. My youngest son kept saying, Mom, what did you do? What did you do, Mom?" Empathetically, I answered, "Nothing." I tried very hard to remain calm. I knew this was some sort of test, especially when he proceeded to write me up a ticket. Surely this is just a warning, I thought. Surely? Nope, it was a ticket. Not only was it real, but the officer proceeded to tell me that I would not be given the chance to pay the fine, but rather I would have to appear in court. As he circled my court date with his pen, my mind slipped into sheer disbelief. Wait a minute, is this some kind of joke? My birthday's coming up. Where are the cameras? Nope, no joke. He was real, and so was the ticket. This can't be happening, I thought. I'm a law-abiding citizen, I pay my taxes, and I'm honest. We make our kids obey the laws. They're not allowed to drive before they're 16, and we don't let them drink alcohol. My thoughts were spinning. My mind went on and on and on with their attributes, while at the same time I pictured myself standing in line at the courthouse with all the men in the orange suits and the handcuffs. I was just mortified. After dropping my youngest son off at his violin practice that morning, I cried and scolded God. This is why people get discouraged. All I did was answer the door. That's all. It was just a leaky gasket. I didn't even know the sprinkler system was on. Why did you let this happen? I figured God already knew what I was thinking, so I might as well say it. Normally, I'm not one of those morning people who some would like to clobber for being overly positive. But because of many recent disappointments, I guess I was wary of a world where wrong is often called right and right is perceived as wrong. It wasn't about the ticket. It was the principle. I had always believed and told my children to obey the law, and the law would be just. Though I knew this was a small thing in the scheme of life, at the moment it felt huge. Through my tears, I told God I was sorry I yelled at him, but as silly as it sounds and in reality was, I really did feel let down. It just didn't make sense to me. If I had been speeding through a school zone and endangering lives, I would have been given a ticket and fined, but because my sprinkler system leaked, I was going to have to appear in court at 8 o'clock in the morning. That very morning, we returned from vacation. God, despite my whining and carrying on, had mercy on me when I received notification that my court appearance had been changed to a later date. Though happy with the date change, needless to say, I was still mortified at the idea of appearing in court. I carried on for days at the injustice of it all, and even contacted a city commissioner to try and get the ordinance changed. Meanwhile, our vacation came and went. And though I felt renewed and grateful to God for our safe and wonderful vacation, my heart felt heavy as I climbed the stones of the courthouse. The temperature that July day was about 108 degrees, and with every step I took, I felt the weight of disappointment, discouragement, and defeat. I had a brief vision of Jesus' journey to Calvary, and shame washed all over me. Saying a quick prayer of forgiveness, I pulled open the heavy courthouse door. As the coolness of the courthouse swept over me, it took my eyes several moments to adjust to the much darker interior of the building. Within moments, I looked up to see a former catechism student of mine running down the stairs. She was crying and ran straight into my arms. You came, she cried. You came. Did you get the message? I wanted you to be here." I had absolutely no idea what she was talking about. I had no idea she had been trying to reach me. The last I had heard from her, she had been living out of town. I held her, and when she calmed a bit, she explained that she was in court for a family matter involving her custody. She had previously been in foster care and was hoping to get placed permanently with her biological father. The judge had just ruled that it would take another 6 months before she could live with her dad. Her foster mother had been trying to reach me, but to no avail. I had been out running errands. A combination of humility, shame, and wonder all washed over me as I realized that, if it weren't for that infamous ticket, and then the change in the court date, I wouldn't have been there for the sweet young girl who had gone through some very hard times. After all, it wasn't as though I ran into her at the grocery store or at the Walmart. I never go to the courthouse for anything. I assured her that God was aware of all things, both great and small, and told her how I came to be there at that moment in time. We laughed together when I told her the story, and what a goof I acted like when I got the ticket. Her laughter quickly replaced her tears. We then prayed that the judge would change his mind, or that the delay would go quicker than expected. I promised to keep her in my prayers. As she left, I walked around the nearest corner and I wept. This young woman was special to me. When I first met her, I sensed that she was struggling, and I tried very hard to show her extra love and attention. If I hadn't been there at that courthouse that day, I may have never seen her again. Upon returning home, I received a phone call from the girl's foster mother. The judge had unexpectedly given the girl a month with her father after all. She is at this writing happily and permanently living with him. To this day, I am still humbled at how many times we cannot or do not see God's hand. Yet He is there, holding us, changing us, shaping us, protecting us, refining us, through every storm, through every trial, great or small. He is there. And God does work in mysterious ways. The next story I'd like to share with you today about love is called The Nightlight, and it was authored by Nancy Erickson. And they say love is the greatest treasure. It's a story about a daughter who receives a loving message from her mother who has passed, a message that she had to see when she needed it the most. As a child, I was in awe of my mother. She was tall, thin, and as graceful as a swaying willow tree. At a very young age, she had suffered from polio so severe that it stunted her growth of her left hip. Not even polio could deter this amazing woman from projecting an image of pure poise. She forced herself to practice walking until she showed such style that at 20 years old, she was hired as a model for Filene's at Jordan Marsh of Boston. She was blessed with many talents. After marriage, she used her musical talents to enrich the life of 2 churches in the center of our village. Mother's talent as an organist and choir director brought the congregation much joy. She had the voice of an angel. Her delicate soprano tone glided easily from deep inside her soul. I remember accompanying her to church on Thursday afternoons. I would bring my homework and sit in one pew or one of the pews while she practiced the next Sunday's hymns. Well, occasionally Mother would whisper to me, "Come and sing with me, Nancy." I would eagerly jump up on and scoot in alongside her. "I love singing with you, Mama," my deep alto voice boomed through the church. Little did I know that I was absorbing the sounds that would sustain me through my life. At home, I made up silly parodies of these great hymns. Amazing Grace lent itself to amazing fun. Amazing Grace, how swift the sound that caught a wretch like me. I once was lost, but soon Mum found me in the maple tree. Mum feigned disapproval of my creations, but I know I would sometimes catch her holding back a smile. Despite her schedule of providing music for 2 churches, Mother always prepared a delicious Sunday dinner. My favorite was roast beef with Yorkshire pudding. Not a Sunday passed that we didn't have a spectacular dessert like chocolate souffle or Boston cream pie. If you children eat all your vegetables, I have a special dessert for you. There was no argument from my brothers or me. We knew it would be delicious, and it was well worth the agony of some peas or some squash. Mother's manners and speech were impeccable. She was raised the youngest daughter of a well-respected bank president in New England. Her mother was a petite, charming lady from Sweden. I, on the other hand, was raised in a farm village with mostly boys for neighbors. I was tiny and tough with a real penchant for tree climbing and bike wars. I would hear the boys shout, "Ditch her!" In a matter of seconds I would be thrown from my bike. "I'll get you for that," came my screams. A true tomboy, I always wore 2 or 3 bandages like badges of honor. My childhood hero was Annie Oakley. For years I dressed in Annie Oakley outfits, arguing with my mother when I wasn't allowed to bring my gun to the dinner table. "Mom, I have to have a gun. What if J.D. or Stevie tried to rob us?" "Nancy, that gun is not something a lady brings to the table. You will have to leave it in the other room. Don't worry. Your father will keep your brothers in line." Perhaps she was somewhat understanding of the dilemma with the boys, but still she took away my gun. Years later, unbeknownst to my mother, I won awards for my skill on the rifle range at the YMCA camp. Occasionally I would dress up for dinner in my Sunday best. Mother would call us inside. "Coming, Mom." I'd yell from the top of the cherry tree, slithering down the trunk. My gaze met Mom's, scolding, "Oh, Nancy, look at your outfit." She would just sigh. Once I came to the dinner table covered with hives from snitching berries out of Mom's strawberry patch. Mom looked at me as if to say, "My poor, pathetic, splotchy child." At times like these, I felt she loved me as you love a stray cat. It was more a charitable act than anything else. She was not outwardly affectionate, and I was a hop-on-your-lap and kissing you kind of a kid. We were as different as night and day. She must have been so disappointed in this alien creature she'd given birth to. As the time passed, and I had children of my own, I gained a great deal of wisdom. I began to realize that my mom had done a lot of things for my brothers and for me. More than likely, she had known a lot, too. The epiphany came to me when I went to pick up my daughter from church camp. The list of her activities was plain to see. I had thought about my sneaky riflery stunt. Maybe I hadn't been the sneaky one after all. One particular year, I remember Christmas shopping for a toy for my daughter. She and every other little girl had asked Santa for a Cabbage Patch doll. It was a fad that caught on like wildfire, so there wasn't one to be found. I thought of giving up the search until I remembered a special Christmas in my childhood. "Mom, please, I have to have that jacket. It's so pretty, and everyone at school has a ski jacket. It's reversible. Mom, I can wear it all the time, and I'll take really good care of it." I already had a winter jacket for the previous year that still fit. I certainly didn't need this one. Christmas morning arrived, and after all the gifts were opened, my mother came into the living room with one more package. She handed it to me with a smile. As I opened it, I shrieked, "Oh, Mom, this is the best Christmas ever." She really understood the importance of a brand-new teenager to feel a part of the in-crowd. Following my mother's generous example, I persisted in my search for the Cabbage Patch doll for my daughter. Her joy on Christmas morning brought back thoughts of my own happiness on that day so long ago. Mother graduated summa cum laude from Cornell University and later returned to college in 1970 for her master's degree. She graduated in 1972 with a degree in library science. For those years, Mom and I attended college simultaneously. I would call to her to complain about the workload. Mom, that professor is insane. He thinks we can write a 10-page paper and read 7 chapters in the text all by Monday. That man is nuts, sweetie. Maybe you can call the Whitecoats from next door and have him committed. Mom laughed. She knew just what to say to release the tension and make me laugh, too. It was her turn to call. Nancy, I'm so discouraged. I spent a week writing this paper, researching, documenting, and rewriting. The professor gave me a B-. I can't believe it. Mom, if you really feel you deserve more, why not make an appointment to meet with him and point out why you think so? A week later, Nancy, you were a lifesaver. I met with the professor, and he agreed. My grade was changed to an A-. Thank you for the advice. I was bowled over by the thought that I could give her encouragement. We bonded in such a way that I began to feel valued and worthy more than ever. It was the best time of our whole lives together. Finally, life was sweet. But those years came to an abrupt end when a beastly disease tore them from us. Every time I phoned her, she was more withdrawn and seemed anxious to get off the phone. We were drifting apart, and my heart just ached. But not knowing that Alzheimer's disease was ravaging her body, every slip of mine she suffered pushed my newfound feeling of security away. I was sure I had caused this rift between us. Once again, I couldn't do anything right, I thought. With a perfect vision that only hindsight affords, I now realized that she was cognizant of the changes in her capabilities and was making Herculean efforts to preserve her dignity by purposely keeping our conversation short. She was losing her ability to communicate, and at only 49 years old. When she was admitted to a nursing home at 57 years old, my world fell apart. I had my first experience with panic attacks, watching her deteriorate was catastrophic to me. The day she no longer recognized my children or me was the worst day of my life. When my children were 8 and 10 years old, Mom lost her battle with Alzheimer's. I was 36 and shattered. I went to check on my kids that night. I knew they had heard me crying. I wanted them to see that I was still there for them. As I entered my son's room, he said, "Mommy, Nana's fine. She said to tell you." Dazed, not knowing how to respond, I held him tight. A sense of peace came to me then, and I felt closer to her once more. 11 years later, I faced yet another trauma. My husband and I were having serious marital troubles that led to a separation. 1 month later, my routine chest x-rays showed streaks from my cigarette smoking. I had to quit my 3 packs a day habit immediately. With these 2 heartbreaks, I was in crisis once more. The tough little tomboy had fallen apart from life's tragedies. I remember crying, "Mom, I wish you could come down here and hug me and make things all better." The first night that I was alone after 25 years of marriage, I plodded into my bedroom and crawled onto the bed. A flood of tears let loose, and I sobbed. Just then the nightlight by my bed began blinking on and off. I was amazed, as that very nightlight had ceased to work long ago. My tears disappeared as I kept my eye on the light, and my fears began to subside. Eventually I drifted off to sleep, and when I awoke, the mysterious light had quit working again. This became the pattern every night. I would no sooner get into my bed than the light would start blinking. One night I didn't think I could go on. The divorce papers were now signed, and I was in agony from nicotine withdrawal. I fell to my knees by the tiny night light. It blinked wildly. I looked more closely at the picture. It was a beautiful maternal-looking angel holding a precious childlike angel. They looked like Mom and me. Even their hair color was the same as ours. I was in awe. I knew in my heart that I would get through all this. I also knew that the nightlight was my mother's connection with me. Months later, I moved out of my family home of 25 years. I left many things behind, but I unplugged my angel nightlight and brought it with me. What if it doesn't ever light up again? What if it was a shot in the wiring all this time? The first night all alone in my new place, I was very nervous. I walked into the bedroom and found the nightlight blinking uncontrollably. "Oh, Mom, you are here with me." Throughout my childhood, I saw only the differences between my mother and me. I felt that I could never bridge the gap and feel close to someone so perfect. I was a goofy girl, and she was a lovely lady. It was nothing sort of miraculous. From beyond the grave, Mum found a way to reach me and give me strength. I now know she loves me. I'm certain she always did. Again, God does work in mysterious ways. This next story that I would like to share with you is a story of renewal. It's called The Fire Next Door, and the author is Jim Sherman. It's a story about a blind man experiencing a transformation when he rescues his blind neighbor from a fire. One night last summer, my neighbor Debbie came over and knocked on my door. "I'm leaving for work, Jim," she said. "Would you mind dropping by my house in a bit and checking on my mother?" "Not a problem," I said. I lived next door to Debbie and her 84-year-old mother, Nan, for about 6 months, and we had become, fast friends. Debbie worked the overnight shift at a nursing home. She worried about leaving her mom alone, so she asked if it was okay if she rigged up one of those baby monitors and gave me a receiver. I said, sure, why not? I was glad to help, but I also felt a little bit funny about it. After all, what could I do? I'd been blind since infancy and out of work for years. In fact, at 54, I'd come to wonder if I had much value anymore. I didn't like having those thoughts and would sometimes ask the Lord to help me fight them off. Still, sometimes it got the better of me. A bit after 9 o'clock at night, I grabbed up my cane and headed over to Debbie's. "Evening, Nan," I said as I felt my way into the front door and into the living room. Nan didn't answer. Maybe she hadn't heard me. Like me, she was blind, and we also had a hard of hearing problem. Quite a pair, the two of us. I made my way toward the sound of her creaking rocking chair. She was cooing to her apricot-colored poodles, Bevo and Biddler. It sounded like they were trying to jump up on her lap. "Oh, you now, get down, you silly little fools," she said with a laugh. Nan and I chatted for a bit. After a while, I punched the button on my talking watch. "The time is 9:45. "If you're okay," I said, "I think I'll turn in." Before I left, I made sure the baby monitor was plugged in and working. "Good night, Nan," I said. I picked up my cane and headed for the door. "See you tomorrow," Nan called behind me, still playing with her dogs. I locked the door and found my way home. I plunked down in my easy chair and switched on the receiver and laid it on the end table. Checking in on Nan had done me a world of good. "Thank you, Lord," I said, "for giving me a chance to help." Minutes later, I heard a sound. Over the years, my ears had grown super sensitive. It was Nan on the receiver. She was shuffling across the floor. A door opened. Maybe she was heading to the bathroom, I thought. Then I heard something strange, something I couldn't identify. It sounded like a hissing sound. Had she turned on the shower? Why? She never showered without Debbie around. Maybe the sound was something else. The gas jet on the stove? God forbid, something catching fire. The monitor was one way. I couldn't call her. I reached for my cane, and I was starting to get worried. More sounds. The door closed. Tapping sounds like someone feeling her way around. Someone who lost her bearings. I got out of my chair. Then a loud, unmistakable crash. I headed for the door. "Jim, Jim," I heard over the monitor. "The house is on fire. Help!" I went as fast as I could to Debbie's. I had to get Nan out. But how? How big was the fire, and where had it started? I wasn't even sure where Nan was, let alone how I would get to her. One thing I knew, there wasn't much time. I got to the front door, and I could smell the smoke, a heavy, thick smell. Now what? What do I do, Lord? Help me, help me, help me find Nan. I put my hand on the doorknob. It was cool to the touch. I reached for my key and unlocked the door. "Nan," I called. No sound. Nothing. Was I too late? "Nan, where are you?" "Here, Jim, help." Her voice was weak. I felt my way inside. I could hear the roar of a fire from somewhere in the rear of the house. Smoke stung my nose as if my nostrils were on fire. "Nan, where are you? Keep talking." Here, Jim, here. Sounds as if she's right in front of me. I flailed my arms about, hoping to find her. Sweat poured down me. I heard crackling. Not much time left. The fire, wherever it was getting closer. Nan! I reached out desperately. My fingers struck something soft. It was her shoulder. Jim, oh Jim, she said. Let's get out of here, I shouted, grabbing her hand. I started to walk, and again I felt the panic rise. Could I find the way out? Our lives depended on it. Lord, lead us to safety, I prayed. I tapped with my cane until we found the front door. We felt our way down the steps, breathing in sweet, fresh summer air, into the gate of her yard. There was no telling how quickly the fire would spread. We hurried down the street toward safety. Finally, we had to stop to catch our breath. Did anyone know Nan and Debbie's house was on fire? I heard steps approach. Are you okay? A neighbor asked. Where's Debbie? She's at work, I said. Call the fire department, and then call Debbie. Nothing more to do. At least we were safe, I said to Nan. But Nan was in a panic. The dogs, Jim. Where are my dogs? Nan, we can't, I said, my voice now soft. We can't go back. It's too dangerous. Nan began to sob. I understood. Those dogs were more than loving companions to her. They were her eyes and her ears. I put my arm around her to comfort her. I can't remember when I felt sadder or more busted up. We heard wailing sirens and roaring engines and then squeaking tires. The fire trucks arrived. Debbie came too. We knew from Debbie's reaction that the house would be a total loss. We stood around as if at a wake. Nan and I listened to the sounds of her house coming down, crackling timbers, shattering glass, collapsing beams. Finally, the firefighters got the blaze under control and put it out. But the air was heavy with the dank stench of charred wood and carpeting. I listened to the firemen talk as they put away their equipment. Then another sound, barking. From Bidler. He ran up and licked Nan's hand. Well, at least Bidler survived the fire. That's a blessing, I thought. Soon Debbie, Nan, Bidler, and I walked across town to Debbie's sister Dolores' house. There wasn't much to say. Even Bidler was quiet. Then about an hour later, there was a knock at the door. Dolores answered it. I heard a bark and then toenails tapping across the linoleum. Bevo! A neighbor had found him wandering about a mile from Debbie's house. Nan hugged him like a long-lost child. I breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you, Lord. We are all safe. That's when I heard Nan's voice break. I heard her sobbing, but I wasn't sure why. Jim, I just want to thank you, she said. When the fire broke out, I panicked and got turned around. I couldn't find the door. You saved my life. Now Debbie's voice started to quiver. You rescued my mom. She said, you're a hero. I hardly knew what to say. 2 hours earlier, I wondered whether I really mattered to anyone. And now I'd saved a life. Nan and Debbie were thanking me. Truth was, I wanted to thank them. Nan wasn't the only one who had been saved that day. That was a great story. You know, sometimes we all question our own worth and why we're here and what we're here to do for people and things, but God does have a plan. So keep hanging in there and doing the best you can every day, spreading love and helping people. And that was the story of Renewal. Before I close today, I'd like to share one more story with you. It's a story about an angel encounter. The title is called Angel in the Pool, authored by Robert Strand. You know, everybody knows about angels. Well, at least on some level we all do. And it seems that more people are talking about angels more than ever. Today there are stores or gift shops devoted to angels, greeting cards, and you find poetry and songs and books portraying them and all the good deeds that they do. We even take those wonderful angelic qualities and sometimes put them on our sweetheart, our spouse, our kids, our special people that we know, calling them angels, our pets too. So what are angels really? We know, according to what it says in the Bible, that they're created beings by God. They are personal beings who always represent God, but are not constantly encountered, which God is. Little is said of their appearance, but they can take on physical form of a person, and sometimes they can be mistaken for another human being. The word angel simply means messenger. They are seen as protectors and messengers, which are ordered by God to minister in countless ways to people. And that's what it says in the Bible. So this story today I think you'll enjoy, which is called Angel in the Pool. And supposedly it is a true angel encounter, or a true story. And I will start it with you now. It was a hot midsummer day in the Midwest, and Jamie went to one of his friends' homes to spend the early afternoon in the pool. It was great to spend time with the old gang and the swimming and diving and horseplay. It was fun. Reluctantly, he had to leave to do his summer job, so later that night he had a date with Jennifer in a neighboring town. As Jamie drove home, he noticed the night. It was so special. The stars and the moon had disappeared. The hot summer day seemed to have permeated the night, almost cast a spell of darkness and humidity over the countryside. It was still hot and muggy. If you ever felt that way, it can be very hot. Just perfect for a late night swim to cool off. So on his way home, he passed his friend's home and decided to take a midnight swim. It was late and the house was dark, and he was welcome to use the pool, but didn't want to awaken anybody in the house, so as he quietly made his way through the backyard, he imagined how good the cool water would feel on a hot, muggy night that only other Midwesterners can identify with. So Jamie quickly changed into his swimsuit in the pool cabana and climbed the diving board, paused, then was poised to make his dive, head first into the pool. As he looked down into the pool, shrouded in darkness, he looked again. There beneath him in the pool was something he never seen before. There was something that glowed with brilliance, sort of in the shape of a cross. He saw what looked like something glimmering in the darkness below. He thought, maybe it looks like an angel. Never taking his eyes off the silvery, shimmering, brilliant form, he slowly climbed back down the ladder of the diving board and walked to the edge of the pool for a closer look. When he knelt down to look closer, the thing was gone. It just disappeared. Gone. He was positive it could have been an angel. Then Jamie realized that he was looking into the swimming pool with no water in it. When he stopped back by the next day, he learned that his friend's parents had drained the pool after the guys had finished swimming in it the previous day, so that cleaning and repairs could be done to it. It is with fond memories that Jamie recalls that special summer night when an angel saved his life, or at the least from a life-changing, crippling head, back, or neck injury. It could have been fatal. So that, my dear friends, is the story of an angel encounter today. Boy, that was something. I'm sure glad you saw that cross in the pool. Anyhow, I hope you're all doing well out there and getting through the winter, and before long, spring will be here. And tomorrow is Valentine's Day, so I send my love out to all of you, wishing you a very happy Valentine's Day and a very happy rest of the month. I will look forward to talking with you again soon, and warmer weather coming, and have a blessed, wonderful week, a blessed, wonderful month, and spread your love and goodness wherever you may be. Thanks again for tuning in to Life's Treasures and Golden Moments. Until next time, take care, and may God bless. This is Natalie Silva.